Hello everyone, welcome to the After Hours experience. And today we're going to talk about one of the most trending topics that's been going on between India and China.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. It's not just a topic that's being spoken a lot about in India, but a topic that's being spoken a lot about all across the world. And the topic is basically about boycotting China. And today we've got a really special guest on. We've got um, a friend by the name of Prarthana Prasad, who is going to be speaking to us, giving us her opinions about the boycott China topic. So let's get it straight over to Prarthana. Ask her to introduce herself, and yeah, let's move to Prarthana.
Hi Tanish, hi Rishabh. So it's been a while since we started talking about making a podcast about the whole boycott Chinese products movement, and so we're finally at it. Yeah, so over the course of this podcast, I would help the viewers to gain more content about what actually is happening with China and whether or not boycotting their product is the most logical thing to do during this global pandemic. So, firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm Pratna Prasad. I just graduated from Christ University. I did my commerce, my BCom honors in Christ, and I specialize in finance and investment, and have a very strong interest in history, and hence this podcast. So, I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you, Pratna, for introducing yourself to the viewers. Could you explain more about what happened between India and China and what led to the conflict?
Yeah. So let me go back to 1962 when the war between India and China was terribly lost by India. And ever since, Chinese have always tried to take control over Tibet and the areas around it. So I would divide the entire dispute between India and China into three series. One is the Nakula Pass dispute that happened along the Sikkim border. The second being the Pangong Lake, and the third being the recent most Galwan Valley dispute. So what happened on June 15th is that the Chinese killed 20 Indian soldiers and took 10 captive, and they released the 10 people that they held captive. And they claim that the Indian soldiers were constantly provoking them and attacking them, due to which they pushed 3-4 soldiers off a cliff, which triggered mayhem. And so we all know about how since the 1962 war, there have been a lot of face-offs between India and Chinese, and there are a lot of videos that have been shared of Indian and Chinese soldiers cursing each other and saying, you know what, this is my area. So, what actually triggered this is the fact that India built a 2-kilometer long road across the line of actual control, which in turn caused China to build a huge wall so they could kind of fight off the Indians and also show them that they're a superpower.
So thank you, Pratana, about giving us the background on the situation between China and India. I think you did a really good job of summarizing it. The next question that we want to ask you and gain more information on is what do you think individuals and the Indian government should do in order to support this boycott movement? What are steps that we can take in order to push forward this movement?
So, coming to what we as individuals could do for this entire boycott Chinese products movement is firstly stop calling it boycott Chinese products and start manufacturing these products in India. It is not going to take 2 days or 3 days to really build a plan, but it's going to take years. It's going to take 5 to 10 years for India to actually get on its feet and stop using Chinese products. And they should really focus on building and manufacturing all these products in India. And the government has recently increased the rate of tariffs and import duties on Chinese products, which is a huge burden on the finance ministry, because a change in tariffs means a change in law structure, which would in turn mean that the finance ministry would have to pay compensation to industries which suffered a loss because of an increase in import duties, which again kind of hinders economic interests of different companies. So we should really focus on a stage wise approach over the period of 5 to 10 years, like I said, and we should kind of gradually decrease the usage and not just wake up one morning and say let's stop using the product. Burning Chinese goods and banning Chinese food isn't gonna help.
Thank you for your analysis, Pratna. And how feasible do you think is the hashtag boycott China movement, given how dependent India is on China for its international trade?
So there are a lot of talks to boycott Chinese products and kind of halt bilateral trade between India and China. Why boycotting Chinese product is not feasible during this global pandemic is one, um, Chinese products are considered efficient and cost effective to a lot of these industries in India, and they're considered import substitutes because they're cheaper and more easy to get compared to raw materials from USA and Africa. And also a change in tariffs that is made by the government would lead to a change of law, which would mean that they would have to give these industries compensation for a change in the law structure. This also doesn't make any sense because China is considered as world's factory for exporting a lot of raw materials and labor to different countries, and Indians do depend on Chinese for tourism because they get around 3 lakh tourists every year from China. And because of this pandemic, India's economy is kind of at a standstill, and boycotting Chinese product isn't the best thing to do for India right now. We should look at a more long term approach, try to like kind of sustain ourselves in the period over a period of 4 to 5 years instead of just like completely boycotting China overnight. We need to start making products that we import from China. So in the longer run, we wouldn't need to depend on them. And if there are going to be any more disputes, then we would have a substitute for it.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of explaining that, Prarthana. So I completely agree with you. It is definitely a step-by-step process. We can't just expect India to suddenly cut off all ties with China simply because of the fact that China provides such a cheap and efficient way for Indian manufacturers to gain everything from raw materials to pharmaceutical supplies to any product really. And I believe as consumers, we need to really, as individuals, as Indian citizens, if we really want to support this boycott China movement, we need to take every step we can actively to stop using Chinese products, make in China products. We need to shift to make in India products. This could mean simple things like deleting TikTok and actively looking for where products are made. So the Indian government is actually helping us a lot with this. The Indian government is urging e-commerce facilities like Amazon and Flipkart to publicly disclose where they gain their products from, i.e. where the products are being shipped from. So we can actually see as consumers now if products are made in China, and we can then make a conscious sort of decision to consume other products rather than Chinese products. And I think it's going to be an extremely slow procedure, as you mentioned. It's going to be a 5 to 10 year procedure at least, if not more. But if Indians take active steps, then there is definitely scope for shifting made in China products into India and really supporting the Make in India brand.